Hello again. Today we're going to tie this Lefty's Deceiver. This isn't exact how Lefty Cray tied the original. There's a few different changes. I like to put my own little twist on flies, and I like to tweak them to suit my own needs. This one, instead of just having a thread body, it's got a chenille body, and the chenille is wrapped with a saddle hackle. Just gives it a little bit of a fuller profile. Still slims down very nicely in the water. But I like the way this extra bulk makes the fly move. The tail, instead of just having saddle hackle, I've got saddle hackle that's laid on top of some schlappen. And yeah, it's a great fly for bass. That's what I mainly use it for, bass in the sea over here. It's also a good perch fly. If you sized it up, it would be a pretty good pike fly, I'm sure. Predators just like this fly. It also works for trout. If you downsize it, and across the pond in the US, I imagine it makes a very good smallmouth bass fly, largemouth bass fly, and their stripers out there. So let's pop this one out the vise. And in the vise, we're going to put, this is an O'Shaughnessy style hook, and it's in a 2.0, although it's quite a small 2.0. So it's a pretty good size for bass over here, I've found anyway. I like my flies to be sort of 3 to 4 inches long for the bass over here. So I'm going to start just by putting a little bit of super glue on the shank of the hook. This is literally just to help the thread. I'm using the thread stick. I don't want anything rolling around the hook, and saltwater flies do get, oh, squeaky bobbin, excuse me. Flies do get absolutely hammered out there in the sea. So thread, this is just Danville's 210. It's a nylon thread. There's a little bit of stretch in it, which I like to help cinch materials down. So we're going to start by just putting the thread on the hook. And I'm not trying to make these turns perfectly touching. Put the super glue on there. I like the rough texture of just opening out the thread a little bit, so leaving a tiny little gap in between each turn, and it just helps to grip the materials. So the tail, this is schlappen, and I've trimmed it to length. I've got my little ruler somewhere. Typical, it's hiding, there it is. I like these flies, like I said, to be about 3 or 4 inches ideally, so that's going to be sort of back to this point here. So I've already measured that, and I'm going to bring my thread back a little bit. I'm going to put both feathers together. Okay, once I've sort of measured up and I'm happy, I'll put both feathers, I'll lay them on top of each other. I didn't explain myself very well at all then, sorry. I'm going to lay both feathers on top of each other like that. You can just see they're splitting apart a little bit there. And I'm going to tie these on right on the top of the hook shank and try and keep those stems right on top. Okay, so that's going to keep that tail. It's going to keep that tail exactly where I want it. Now I'm just going to shorten that up a tiny bit. So just shorten it up a tiny bit, lay the feathers on top of each other again, and then come in again and sit them. I want them both right on top. So hold the stems up, sit them right on top, and it will stop them from trying to twist around that hook shank. Okay, I'm going to do a few wraps, and then I'm going to come underneath with, say, 3 turns. And what that does is it helps to kick the tail up a little bit. Do a couple more there actually. Okay. Helps to kick that tail up a bit. Just make sure they're right on top of that hook shank. This is where you need to be super fussy. And then we're going to tighten down those stems all the way up to the body. Okay. Now. So that's the first part of our tail. All right. Now we're going to take some saddle. Now this is obviously that schlappen is white, and this is like a cream saddle hackle. I think it's a Metz saddle, but it's a very whitish cream, I would call it. So I'm going to take 2 feathers. I'm going to take one from this side. I'm going to take one from that side. Okay, and I'm going to try and make these feathers the same, as in, I'm going to try and make them the same size. I'm slipping over my words today, aren't I? Try not to take any feathers that are twisted. Just try and take 2 nice ones. So I've got 2 nice ones there. Okay, 2 nice feathers there. And these I'm going to lay on top of the schlappen, a tiny bit shorter than the schlappen. So I'm going to measure these up. So that's all I want, is that. We're going to do that with both feathers. So I do one against the fly, and then I match the other one against the one that I've put on my desk. Okay, let's just make sure this is all good. Yep. So now what we're going to do is just going to turn this towards me to make it easier for me. I'm going to lay one. Just going to bring my thread back. And I'm going to wax this thread because I want this to grip. I'm going to do your side first. So what I'm doing is, you can see it's got a natural curve of the feather. It's going that way. So I want that to come in to the fly, the curve to come into the fly. So as you're looking at it, it's going to be convex. So I'm just going to add this onto the side. Come around with a couple of loose turns and just see if it's twisted. Now that's twisted a little tiny bit. So you just come back. I'm going to lay this on top. I'm going to do it laying it on top here, and I can just see it that little bit better. Now, if they misbehave, like this one's doing, sometimes I'll get some tweezers and I'll flatten the stem ever so slightly how I want it to lay. And I found it helps me to keep that feather exactly how I want it. So tie it. These can be really tricky. So we're just going to keep going until we get that exactly how I want it. That's lovely. Now I'm going to do the same on the other side. Excuse me, a frog in my throat. So we're going to take the other my side. The one that you do sort of my side is always easier. So that one went on first time. Then we're going to run the thread all the way up, the full length of the body. I'm going to trim these off. I mean, they'll never pull out. And it's just a little bit of a stiffer tail, right? So, because I'm using this for a predator, you know what's coming. The old super glue. You only need a touch. It just makes the flies last that little bit longer. Bass hammer these. Absolutely hammer them. To the point where I don't think I've ever missed a bass bite, because they've they've basically caught me. Do you know what I mean? So now I'm going to take some pearl flash. I don't know, I've got 6 strands, something like that. And this is just a pearl flashaboo, a pearl flashaboo. I don't know what's wrong with my talking today. So I'm just gonna lay these on top. I'm gonna bring my thread back. Like that. I dropped one of the flashaboo strands there. So I'm gonna lay them on top. Okay. Now I've pulled the ends out so they're all unequal lengths. And can you see it's all wild? It's all going everywhere. If you just lick your fingers and run it through the flashaboo, it'll help control it. Okay. So I'm going to lay it on top a little bit longer than the tail. And then I'm just going to try and separate these in equal parts. Like that. So you got 6 strands. I'm taking 3 each side and I'm going to lay them down like that. Just have that in. Now I'm going to trim. I only want them a tiny bit longer than the tail. Okay. And now I'm going to take, this is a silver holographic flashaboo. And I'm going to take 4 strands of that. I've just got some in my little drawer on my desk. I'll be honest with you, some of it all fell out in the packet, so I just put it in my drawer and I've just been picking it out the drawer. It's not so bad. So we're going to do the same again. Just going to pop it on the top. Just tighten that down. Make sure it's bang on the top. And then I'm going to take 2 one side and 2 the other side. Come on, there we go. I'm just going to hold these kind of down. Catch. There we go. I'm going to tighten down on that. This 210 Dansville thread is very stretchy, so it really grips those materials. Okay, there's your tail. Nice and easy. Just stop. I mean, the flashaboo, when you fold it back and tie it in again, I've never had it pull out, but I still, fishing for a predator, I still use a touch of super glue. Now I'm going to take some of this chenille. Now this is just a pearl flash Palmer type chenille, and I'm going to catch that in. I mean, you'll still have a little bit of wet super glue there, so that will be ideal. I'm going to catch that in, and I only want about that much, and I'm actually going to cut that off. I'll normally only wind it still on the spool, if you like, but actually, because of what I'm going to do here, I'm going to cut it off, because I'm going to do like it's almost like a complex twist, I guess they call it, or I guess you'd call it. So you can see this feather's twisted. Can you see it's got a twist in this saddle feather? Can't really be used for much, but these complex twists it's perfect for, because it really doesn't matter. So I'm tying it in by the tip, and I'm tying it alongside the chenille, and I'm going to wrap the other bit right up to the end of the for the end of the body sort of thing, where the body will end. Now I'm going to take the feather, and I'm going to try and hold this up. I'm going to take the feather, and I'm going to take the flashaboo, and I'm going to lay them on top of each other like that. And then I'm going to take, this is a dubbing spinner, and I put a crocodile clip on it. And I'm catching both bits in the crocodile clip. And then I'm just going to snip off the waist. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to brush this out a bit. Right, all I'm doing is I'm going to spin it up. Okay, just twist it up a little bit like that. The string and the cord inside the chenille will reinforce the stem of the feather, so you don't really need to do like a counter wrap of wire or anything. And I'm going to run this up in open spirals to begin with, so they're nowhere near touching turns. And then when I get closer to the front, I'm going to do a couple of touching turns. Okay, and now I'm going to catch it off. Don't worry if it all looks a complete mess at the minute. It's gonna couple of turns. Make sure we wax that thread. Really tighten it down. You don't want this coming apart. Bring up the waist, snip. Now I'm gonna fold everything back, and I'm just gonna clean up this area. And again, I'm gonna make sure I got wax on my thread. I don't know what I'd do without me bit of cobbler's wax, you know. It's just, if you do tie flies and you don't sort of use wax, just use wax. Don't know what else to say to you, but wax just makes it better. It just adds so much more grip to your thread. It's brilliant. So there we have a little body, and we're just going to brush this out. Don't worry if it all looks a bit scruffy. If you want to come in and try and oik out any fibres you've trapped with a needle, do so. Or you could come in with, this is actually a rifle cleaning end. You know, you put a pole on the end and you slide it down the barrel of your rifle and it cleans it out. I think this one's for a 177 air rifle, but you can get them in 2.2, you can get them in, you know, I've got ones for my shotguns, etc. You can get them for any size rifle, but I found the little 177 perfect for doing flies. I think it's 177, it's either that or it's 2.2. So I'm going to hook this back. So we've cleaned that up nicely. There's your body, there's your tail. Now I'm going to take some, this is just like a flash dubbing. It's like an ice dub. So I'm going to take some out, it's nice and red, and I'm going to align all the fibres just by pulling and restacking, pulling and restacking, and you'll get all the fibres aligned. And then I'm just going to, you could break this stuff, it's pretty brittle, so I'm just breaking it to length. I'm going to put the flower upside down. I am going to lay this underneath, keeping it right underneath the shank. A couple of turns. Fold it back. A couple of turns. And it just adds a little bit of a red accent. If you want to come in and make it shorter, just break it shorter, you don't need to cut it. And it just adds that little bit of red accent underneath to simulate your gills. And now I'm going to take some bucktail. So I'm going to take some white and I'm going to take some grey bucktail. And I'm going to do the throat and the wing just with bucktail. So you can see I've nearly used all this bucktail. So I'm going to take, I don't want it to flare much. So I'm going to take it from quite high up this bucktail here, because I don't want it to flare much. So I'm going to try and pick out a nice bit. I'm just going to cut it. And then as always, I'm going to hold the ends and I'm going to pull out the short fibres. Any horrendously long fibres I'm also going to pull out. I'm going to add a little bit more to that bundle. Just a tiny little bit more. Okay, we do the same with this piece. Pull out all the shorts, any really long ones. I'm not going to stack this hair. I don't think I need to go that far. And that's about right. So now I want this to come just to the back of the hook. Okay, so about there. I'm just going to measure that. I'm going to cut it off at that point. I'm just doing it over my bin. Okay. I'm going to lay this on. I'm going to take a couple of small wraps, loose wraps, and I want it on the bottom and only on the bottom. Tighten down, and I'm pinching my fingers either side of the shank. I'm all fingers and thumbs, but so it can't slip round the sides. You can snap your thread if you pull it too hard, but it won't slip round the sides. That was amazing. So, like I've said before, if that happens, don't panic. We've used wax, and if you've tied the rest of your fly really nicely and you've got plenty of wax, oops, the hook keeps moving, it's not going to come undone. So you just rejoin it, and there we go. No problem. So, take the hair again. Let's try that again. Lay it on the fly. Come around with a couple of loose wraps. Pinch either side. Pull down. And I'm going to increase the tension as I get near the hook eye. As I get near the hook eye. And I'm going to come back like that. And I am going to take the grey. And again, I'm going to take it from fairly high up. I'm going to take more of the grey than I did of the white. Because obviously, if you want a fly to kill properly, if you put more material on the top than you do on the bottom, it has that parachute effect. With this one, I'm going to want that a little bit longer. So cut it to length. Pop it on the top. Come round 1, 2 turns just to hold it. Have a little look. Now I don't mind if this slips around the side a little bit. In fact, I'm going to actively encourage it to come round the sides just a little bit. There we have it. Have a look at that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Now, I'm going to tighten as I get near the eye. Come up. And down like that. Okay. There we go. Now I'm going to come back to the eye and I'm just going to whip finish. Oh, I really didn't make the vise tight enough, did I? Never mind. Okay. Do 2 whip finishes. I always do on my saltwater patterns. I don't know why, because I'm just about to put super glue on it, but hey ho, we do these things. There we go, like that. Have a look. Such a simple little pattern. Now we're going to get some super glue. And I'm going to put some all the way around these thread wraps. And I'm going to put too much on, if you know what I mean by that. I've put more on than I need, because it's going to help to glue the head in place. I'm going to take the head. I'm going to slide the head back. Slide the head back to the bucktail. Manhandle it if you have to. Okay. There we go. Just make sure everything's okay. Make sure you're happy. Yep, that's absolutely fine. And now all I'm going to do is take a little bit more thread. I'm going to wrap in front of the fish mask, stop it sliding off the front. It is now super glued onto there, but we're just going to add some thread here, and it basically means it's got no chance of slipping off the front. Like that. Come in with the scissors, trim, come in with the glue again. Come round, nice and neat. Nice and neat. These flies are very quick to tie. They're not, you know, you're not going to win any, you know, you're not going to win any competitions to put this fly on the front cover of a magazine. But it's not meant for that. Every fly I tie, it's a fishing fly. It's not a put in a frame and hang on the wall fly. And that's basically it. It's very, very quick, very, very simple to tie. Just a small little deceiver pattern. Like I said, they're not pretty or anything like that, but they work. They really, really, really work. So yeah, that is my version, if you like, of a very simple deceiver pattern. So, once again, I hope you enjoyed that. If you do fish for bass, then give it a go. They're so easy to tie. It's like the clouser minnow. If you fill your box with a few of these and a few clouser minnows, then you're basically good to go. Anyway, if you have enjoyed it, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Thank you.